In any team's development, the backups and the scout team guys play an integral role. So, which players should USC fans become more familiar with during this offseason, as well as playing into the regular season? I'll talk about some potential breakout players on both sides of the ball, and you get to play schedule maker. Where would you go first in 2024 when USC jumps into the big conference? That's what's coming up next on Locked On USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Marc, and thanks for making Locked On USC your first listen every day, 5 days a week. Whether you're watching on YouTube or wherever you download your podcast, we are free. And I want to thank you for making this show your first listen of every day. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the dislike button. And if wherever you're listening to your podcast, go ahead and send me some feedback. Send me a DM. You can follow me on Twitter at Marc Culkin. Make yourself known. Let me know what you want to talk about. All right, so fall camp ended on Saturday, and the team started classes on Monday. So they also held a practice on Monday that was closed to the media. Yeah, I know there's a few of you out there that don't give a crap if the media is present for practice or not. Most of you do. So when the team's practicing and we're not there, I don't have a lot to offer you as far as news of that day until my sources get back to me. However, these next 2 weeks are just as important, if not more than those first 2 weeks of fall camp, because these next 2 weeks is basically where the staff is going to determine who's going to practice on second team, who's going to be the backup, third team, and who's going to play on the scout team, which is really important. It's an unsung part of being on the team. Typically, the walk-ons, they get to play that role, but there's going to be guys who are competing for playing time that are going to be asked to play wearing the other team's colors, so to speak, during the week when the team is preparing for their next opponent. Riley explained on Saturday after the scrimmage that the development of the reserve players, they're going to pay off during a long season. He went on that it's an underrated part of your roster. We're not building ourselves to win one game, right? ? We're building ourselves to try and win a lot of games, win games in different ways, and have to win with different people. And to do that, you've got to develop your entire roster. So on offense, it's going to be tough. Let's be honest. It's going to be really difficult for players who are trying to have that breakout season. Essentially, it's going to have, unless injuries play a role, I spoke about this on our last episode when we were reviewing the scrimmage. Lincoln basically knows who his wide receivers are. He knows who's playing on offense. It's now about balancing the playing time for the guys in the rotation. Specifically, at wide receiver is what he was pointing to. Jordan Addison, Mario Williams, Gary Bryant Jr., and I think Taj Washington should be the go-to guys as far as receiver goes. Plus, you have the transfers like Terrell Bynum from Washington and Brendan Rice from Colorado. Mario Williams came over from Oklahoma as well with Caleb Williams and the head coach, as well as some of the other coaches. Nevertheless, I still think this is going to be a position where a player is, who's been waiting patiently, could get a chance. Someone like a John Jackson, who is wearing number 80 this year, and the bookstore will actually be selling that jersey. So get out there and support JJ. Kyle Ford, he's another guy. He's got to stay healthy. We've seen glimpses of him, but again, with Kyle Ford, he's got a physically mature, big body receiver. Got to stay healthy. And the last time I saw him this past week, he was on rehab island, undisclosed injury. Hopefully he's back practicing on Monday and for these next 2 weeks preparing for the game against Rice on September 3rd. Michael Jackson III, see above with Kyle Ford, same thing. He's missed most of fall camp. Again, another undisclosed injury. So Kyron Hudson, he's got a similar size to Kyle Ford. That wide receiver group, though, when you talk about that first group, those first four names that I rattled off, those are going to be the guys, especially Jordan Addison. He's going to be that go-to guy, and maybe even option number 2. He's the reigning Biletnikoff winner, and you want to get the ball in your best playmaker's hands as often as possible. Which, I guess, is a perfect segue to, obviously everyone is thinking breakout player. It's got to be Rayleigh Brown, the super freshman from Mater Dei. With him though, again, you've got all these players in front of him. At running back, you've got Travis Dye and Austin Jones. You know what they're going to give you from Oregon and Stanford, respectively, when they transferred. And Darwin Barlow is ready. He's healthy. He spent his time in the weight room, and he looks like a different running back right now. Very big, looks good. So I guess with Rayleigh, it's a matter of how many touches can you get him during the game. Obviously he's going to get his opportunities on special teams with kick return. I think he'll be backing up Jordan Addison at punt returner. So, obviously I think Rayleigh is the guy that everyone anticipates being the breakout guy on offense. And again, because he's versatile from the wide receiver room, or from the wide receiver position, or out of the backfield playing running back, because of his versatility, I guess that gives him a leg up on his competition for that breakout player on offense. The H-back tight end plays such an integral role in Lincoln Riley's offense. Someone's going to have to step up, and they have to make it happen. So whether it's going to be Malcolm Epps, Josh Follow, Lake McCree, or Ethan Ray, we're going to have to wait for Jude Wolfe to get healthy sometime in October. Is the forecasted return from him from his foot procedure. Maybe by that position by committee can be the breakout player. Again, this position has produced so little over the last few years. Any contribution you get is going to be a breakout. So is that going to be, 30 receptions from the position? 40? If one player can get 20 to 25 from the tight end H-back role, they're going to go to the top of, hey, we have a breakout player on offense. I'm not sure you want to have a breakout player from the offensive line, so I'm going to pass right over that, because if you are, you've got a veteran experienced group returning. You've got 6, 7, possibly 8 guys that Lincoln Riley and Josh Henson are trying to find playing time in the rotation. So if you do have a breakout guy that's not among the 5, plus Bobby Haskins, Portland Ford, Mason Murphy, and Andrew Malek, you've probably had an injury or 2, and that's not good news. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I've gone over some of these names, but one name I haven't brought up yet, and I did this for a reason. I'm going to go back to the wide receiver group. I think C.J. Williams, by the end of the year, the freshman out of Mater Dei, is going to be the breakout player on offense. Just one of those gut feelings. He's got a physically mature body. He's mentally mature for his age as well. He likes to work. That's just a really good combination you want out of a freshman. And when you've got an offensive play caller like Lincoln Riley, who's always trying to develop his players for the future, that might be a good place to look. So Rayleigh Brown is probably going to be the guy, but my pick for breakout player on offense is going to be, just out of the blue, random name, sort of, C.J. Williams. Bet on it. And because you're going to be betting on that, head on over to betonline.net, because they are your fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. You can find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. You can find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. And also, did you know that Locked On is doing the Flex Ultimate College Football Preview? Yep. Thanks again for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. The Ultimate College Football Preview is here. It's a 7-episode preview with your college football experts, local team experts, and Odyssey college football insiders. It's everything you need to be ready for the college football season, all in one spot. Search for Ultimate College Football Preview on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so we went over the potential breakout players on offense in the first segment. Now let's talk about the defensive side of the ball in 2022. I think we were already seeing it through the first 2 weeks of camp. The defensive line is, they have the potential to lead I guess we'll call them a no-name defense. There's plenty of names on this defense, but they played so terribly last year as a unit that they don't deserve to have a name. Let them create their own in 2022. So, excuse me. This team can really make a name for themselves on defense if they're undefeated when they show up to play Utah in Week 6 in Salt Lake City. The Trojan fans know the name Brandon Peely, but they haven't really seen him play, or at least very often. So, as a fifth-year senior now, I don't know if it's fair to say that he's going to categorize him as a breakout player, but we need him to have a breakout season because, number one, he's healthy, he's in better shape, and he's needed in a bad way. A great defense is going to be strong up the middle. USC has to go from a bad defense to a defense that's worth talking about. I mentioned, we just want to talk about this defense positively. And if you don't have that presence over the ball, it's going to be a long year. So it really won't matter. It's essential that Brandon Peely be the guy. We need him to break out. He's what, 6'4". They've trimmed him down to 320 pounds. So his athleticism, or as Coach Sean Newell, his position coach, likes to talk about, his twitch should be more recognizable now, since he's not going to be bogged down with that extra weight. The other name, and we've been talking about him, is TROJAN Benton. He is poised to have the breakout year. And, I've spoken about him. I said, look, he's my guy. That's my hunch of the year. His position coach loves him. I've mentioned it before. I'll say it again. Coach Newell said he's made for this defense. Talking about TROJAN Benton. His natural ability, it fits what we do perfectly. The twitch that he has to get penetration and to get upfield. That's what TROJAN Benton brings to this defense. He brings that so much to the point that everybody, if you've watched Nick Figueroa play defensive end for USC, you know that Nick is one hell of a football player. But the difference between TROJAN and Nick is he's quicker. And that's something that has positioned him in front of Nick now to the first team. And that's great news that you have a Nick Figueroa backing up TROJAN Benton if necessary. And who knows? Nick can continue to compete, and Coach Newell and defensive coordinator Alex the Grinch, they'll have no problem, moving people up and down the rotation depending on how they practice and how they play. So the more players you get playing up to their ability, being developed, the better. What's so ironic about this, when you think about it, is USC flipped Benton from his commitment from Washington State. And, he actually has worked his way up from the scout team into a backup role where he was last year to, he's now he can say, hey, look at me now, Mom. I'm on top of the world. He is on pace to start for USC. I guess we'll see what happens in 12 days, or 11 days, depending on when you're watching this episode. If you're watching this on Tuesday, 11 days before USC kicks off against Rice. I mentioned Alex Grinch, the defensive coordinator. This is what he said of Benton. He's got some quickness about him and some physicality about him. And when he does it, he shows well. What happens with guys like that typically is when they don't, it stands out real clearly. If you have the quickness and if you don't use the quickness, we call that a loaf. That's typical Grinch. That's his way of pointing out the positive, but letting you know that if you're not doing this, this is who you are. It's almost like that reverse positive sandwich: positive, negative meat, positive bread. Alex, his sandwich is all over the place. So if you get a compliment, you've earned it. But he's always going to make you work for more. I got no problem with that. I love those types of coaches. Obviously, Corey Foreman needs to have a breakout year for this team. And he needs to do it this year before the B word starts getting tossed around by those who love to judge players. There's a lot that goes on. Injuries play a role in this. And, before anybody starts calling it's unfair. You come in with high expectations. You're tabbed the number one defensive player in the country on the defensive side of the ball. And, you're expected to contribute by the end of year one. Well, we know what happened last year. So we're going to give Corey the pass, but he's not going to get that same latitude in year two. He has to show this year. It's necessary. That position, the rush end, is the catalyst. So if it's not Corey, they brought in Romello Height from Auburn. You know, we got a little bit of tape of what he did at Auburn, but that's about it. There's a guy to keep an eye on here. His name's Julian Simon. He has a chance to pass both of them up. He's been healthy all fall camp. Those other two have not been. So, if he continues to stay healthy and the other two continue to battle injuries and can't get on the field and get better as a football player and develop, maybe Julian Simon has that breakout year. That rush end position might be the perfect spot for him when you think about it. Never know. Because the secondary is so deep, especially at the safety position, I don't know if you're going to have a breakout player. I think Kalen Bullock has free safety on lockdown. I believe Xavier Alford is going to be your starting strong safety. The nickelback role, though, let's go there. Max Williams. I don't think, look, he's not as big as Matt Grudegood, who was more of a hybrid, linebacker safety. However, I think Max Williams plays with a similar fearless attitude. He has a nose for the ball. He supports the run physically as well as anybody, and he'll ball hawk a quarterback. He'll deke you. He'll bait you. So while he's in pass coverage, so Max is healthy. He stays healthy. He's going to have that breakout year, and he's going to just be another guy out of that secondary to make life miserable for opponents. So, we know where the weak link is. It's that linebacker group. We just want the group to perform. Shane Lee is there. Raylan Goforth is back. Rajon Davis, Eric Gentry, anybody. You need production. You get production, that's a breakout player. The group has to perform, again, by committee. I don't know who's going to be the breakout guy. It's got to be somebody, though. The bottom line is this. There will be at least two breakout players on the defense side of the ball. And it's going to be from one of the younger guys. I don't think the staff is going to want to wait around for any of those veteran guys who've been around before the staff got here. Number one, they didn't recruit them. And so if a staff is going to invest their time in developing for the future, typically they look to guys who are younger. That's just the fact of the matter. So there you go. Who's your breakout guy on offense and defense? Let me know. Talk about it on YouTube. DM me over there on Twitter at Marc Holken. Let's talk about it on our next episode. Give me some feedback. All right. So on WeRSC's Inside the Trojan Huddle, we talked about this in our overtime session. It was one of the questions from one of our viewers, listeners. And real quick, someone had asked on Locked on USC about the WeRSC.com sign-up special. Yes, that promotion is over, but there is a free 1-week trial. So head on over, check it out. Free plug, WeRSC.com. Back to our overtime session, so to speak. If you were the schedule maker, which Big Ten stadium or team do you want USC to travel to first in 2024? So I'm the schedule maker. I want to go see Cap Randall, Wisconsin. Number one, just from a fan perspective, I've heard they've got a great tailgate scene. And you look, bratwurst everywhere. If you love those adult beverages and love to drink some beer, I hear they do that pretty well up there as well. So yeah, let's check out Wisconsin early in the year, as opposed to November when it's colder. Um, you know, think about it. Fourth quarter, they had that their tradition is the jump around. Yeah, I want to go check that out. Again, if I want cold weather, and I love the cold weather, but I prefer going to the cold weather if I'm going to go skiing and stuff like that. Not sitting in the press box, or definitely not if I'm in the stands as a fan. And then conversely, who do I want to see from the big conference visiting the Coliseum first? I got to go with Michigan. Look, we've seen Ohio State. I've seen, and Chris Arledge on Inside the Trojan Huddle, he's brought this up. USC's played Penn State. I want to see Michigan come to the Coliseum. That's never happened to play USC, at least off the top of my head. And I want them to wear their home uniforms. I think that would look awesome. USC's Cardinal and Gold, Michigan's navy blue and maize yellow is really what it is. Those colors contrasting really well. It looks good at the Rose Bowl. It would look even better at the Coliseum. And you know what? I guess for a 1A or 1B, if I can't go to Camp Randall, I don't remember who brought it up. If it was Greg Katz, or if it was Chris Arledge, or if it was Kevin Bruce. Penn State, Happy Valley. Imagine USC playing a whiteout game, 100,000 plus. Obviously, they're not going to let USC wear their road whites. Oh man, can you imagine the Cardinal and Gold with that whiteout backdrop? I'm telling you what, USC fans, USC moving to the big it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure everybody else is. So you might as well start getting familiar with the Locked On Big Ten show. Nate Dickinson is your host. You can learn about all the Big Ten teams that USC will be playing. And you can also check out Locked On Pac-12 with your host, Spencer McLaughlin, for as long as USC is a member of the Pac-12, Pac-10 conference. That way you can get all of your news and notes in 30 minutes or less. But you're not going to do that until you're done watching Locked On USC, making me your first listen every day. So until then, hey, you get me 5 days a week. I'll be back again with another episode tomorrow. You know what to do, everyone. Fight on.